Okay, so yesterday we were talking about the bodhicitta, the altruistic intention, or what this book translates as the spirit of awakening, that very noble motivation to attain full enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. And we talked about how once having generated that motivation and taken the Bodhisattva vow, in which we promised in the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to work for the benefit of sentient beings and become enlightened, how if after having made that commitment we then give it up, we create so much misery for other beings and for ourselves. Why? Because we've made a promise to sentient beings, and a promise about something that we've thought about a great deal of time, that we've realized is something valuable and worthwhile, something that the Buddhas have praised. And if having gone into the bodhicitta with a clear mind and a strong and sincere commitment, we then let our self-centered thought overpower our mind such that we give up this altruistic intention, then it's deceiving sentient beings, and it's kind of betraying the kindness of the three jewels and how the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha have nurtured us. So I was saying yesterday that we have to be so careful of our self-centered mind, because it just pops up and it takes over the show and away we go. And our self-centered mind is so entrenched, it's so much a part of us that we don't even realize we have it most of the time, because we're just so used to being self-centered that we've never even stopped to consider if it's realistic or if it's beneficial. We've just taken for granted that being selfish is the state of affairs of all beings, and that being self-centered is the natural way to be. Yeah? So of course when we were growing up, our parents tried to mitigate our self-centeredness. They would tell us not to be so selfish, to share our toys with our brothers and sisters and our friends. You know, our parents tried very hard to calm our self-centered mind. And they succeeded a little bit. But our self-centered mind is very devious, and it also found all sorts of other new ways to operate, whereby we look like we're doing something in a very kind, magnanimous way. But in fact, our mind is manipulating. What do you think? True? Not true? Okay. So lots of times, we're kind to people. You know, we go out of our way to do them a favor, get them a present, or we say nice words to them. But our motivation is because we want them to like us. So it's not because we really sincerely care about that person. It's more because we want them to like us, because when other people like us, we feel good. And we want to be popular. Yeah, we don't want to be left out. We want to be included. So we do all sorts of things that we think other people think we should do. Not because we really care about the other people, but because we want them to accept us. We want to be included. We want to be liked and be popular. And sometimes we even go against our own principles in order to do this. I can't tell you how many people I know who tell me that they really don't want to drink alcohol, but they just drink alcohol because their colleagues drink and their clients drink. And so if they said, I don't want to drink alcohol, all those people would think very badly of them, and they wouldn't be able to close any business deals because they couldn't go out and drink with their prospective clients. And so for the benefit of their whole company to close these business deals, they have to go out and go drinking with their clients, even though they don't really want to. Okay, so I can't tell you how many people have told me that. Maybe even some of you. What do you think? Yeah? And when I tell these people, you know, you don't have to drink. It's perfectly okay to tell your business partners that you don't like to drink. They say, oh no, I can't do that. They're going to think I'm weird. I have to drink because they want me to drink. And these are the same people who tell their children not to drink because their friends are drinking. In other words, their children should not succumb to peer pressure to drink, even though the parents are doing that. You think that's a little bit hypocritical? Just a little bit. Okay? So we come up with all sorts of excuses why we have to do things that aren't really good for us. Okay? And I can't tell you the number of people who tell me that they have to lie in order to do business. Because if they don't lie, then the client or the customer won't buy their product, or they won't get commission. So they have to kind of, do things under the table and still look like they're honest. But unless they lie and give false information to their clients, again, their business is going to fail. There's no other way to do business, they tell me. They have to lie. Would you do business with somebody who lies? If you did business with somebody and you thought they were telling the truth, and later you found out they were lying, would you do business with them a second time? No. So in the long run, is lying to your clients good for your company and good for your business? Is it? No. Because you might get a client one time, but after that, they're not going to go anywhere near you. And in addition, they're going to tell everybody else that your company isn't a fair one and isn't an honest one. So you might clinch one business deal immediately by lying, but it's not going to make your business successful after that. In fact, it's going to make your business fail. Yeah. So you see how our self-centered thought operates? Yeah, it creates all these reasons why we have to do things that aren't good for ourselves, aren't good for others, that go against our own moral principles. And for what benefit? No real benefit at all. And I get people coming to me to say, oh, I've been married for X number of years, but I've met this other very nice woman. And my wife doesn't know, and what she doesn't know won't hurt her. And I'm actually so much more fulfilled when I have this affair. So that then when I go back to my family, I'm actually a nicer person. Right. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many people come and tell me, you know, when I was a little kid, I knew my dad was having an affair. He thought we kids didn't know. We knew. So does that create a happy family life? When you cheat on your spouse? No. Okay, but that's what our self-centered mind makes us do. It makes us dream up all these reasons why our behavior is okay when our behavior isn't okay. Okay? Similarly, sometimes we're really nasty and rude to other people. Or maybe I should say, other people are nasty and rude to us because we're so sweet and kind. We never say awful things to others, do we? Do we? Do you say awful things to others? Oh, really? Oh, but I'm sure other people say more nasty things to you than you say to them. What do you think? Yeah. Anyway, when you say nasty things, they started it, so it's actually their fault. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't have said these nasty things unless you started it. And it's because you did this and you did that and you did this that then I had to protect myself by saying all these things. So it's your fault. Yeah. So it's not even fair that I create negative karma when I say bad words. You should create my negative karma. You should experience the result of my negative karma because you're responsible for it. Okay, this way of thinking is all the function of our self-centered mind. Yeah? And it creates all these really ridiculous reasons that we actually believe in the moment. Okay? We're so gullible. When we want something, we will believe anything that justifies getting what we want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For example, we might be doing something that's not very healthy or that's not very honest, and somebody, a good friend who really sincerely cares about us, comes and says to us, you know, we're friends and I really feel that I need to be a good friend to you by telling you that you've been doing such and such a behavior and it's really kind of not very advantageous and it's going to bring you problems later on. And our friend, you know, gives us this kind of feedback about something we do. And how do we react? We get mad. Oh, but I have so many good reasons for doing this and that and this and that. I thought you were my friend and now you're criticizing me. Okay. So even somebody sincerely tries to help us, we throw them out the window and think they're an enemy. Meanwhile, somebody who doesn't really care about us, who is doing their little manipulation trip, comes and flatters us and says, oh, you're so wonderful, you're so good, you're so kind, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome. And we go, finally somebody sees how wonderful I am. And we lap it up, don't we? Even though the other person is totally insincere, we believe them because they're saying something that pleases our ego. Whereas our friend, who is very sincere, gives us some feedback that our self-centered mind doesn't like, and we go, get out of here. Okay. We're pretty dumb sometimes, aren't we? Aren't we? And you know what makes us so dumb? Our self-centered mind. Because our self-centered mind thinks it's very clever, but actually, it's pretty dumb. It's very important here when we're talking about the disadvantages of our self-centered mind that we're very clear that the self-centeredness is not who we are. Okay? It's one mental state, but it is not who we are. Similarly, anger, attachment, confusion, all these are mental states, but they are not our identity. So we are not inherently angry. We are not inherently selfish. Okay. So this is very important because otherwise, if we think that we are inherently selfish, then when we talk about the defects of the self-centered mind, we get confused and we think that we're criticizing ourselves. But we're not. Okay, there's a difference between the conventional I and the self-centered mind. They're two different things. Okay? So it can be very effective sometimes to think of our self-centered mind as some little voice out here that's whispering in our ear, giving us all sorts of bad advice. You know, I was at a school one time in the US. Sometimes I'm invited to schools to give talks. And after the talk, one high school student raised their hand and said, "Do you believe in the devil?" And I said, well, from a Buddhist viewpoint, there's no external devil. Yeah. But if you're talking about something that interferes with our happiness and that goes against our own well-being, then you could say that our self-centered thought were the devil. So there's no external being who's trying to harm us. But it's the self-centered thought, that little voice that's whispering, "I'll look out for you. Follow me." And then we salute it and we go, "Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Tell me what to do." And self-centered thought says, "Criticize that person. Be greedy. Yeah. Cheat that person. Take advantage of this one." And we go, "Yes, immediately I will do that." Thinking that if we follow our self-centered thought, we're going to be happy. And instead, what happens is we create a ton of negative karma. And then, of course, other people see through our facade and see the self-centeredness, and they don't trust us. And with good reason. Yeah? So what we're trying to do here is to really look and see that the self-centered mind is our real enemy. It is much more of an enemy that betrays us and interferes with our happiness than any sentient being ever is. And in the chapter that we're going through in Shantideva, after a few verses, there's, I'm not sure if we'll get to it this time or if next year we'll have to do it, but there's some very, very powerful verses in which Shantideva says that the harm we experience due to an external person is nothing compared to the harm we experience due to the self-centered thought. That the worst thing an external person could ever do is terminate this life. But no other living being can send us to the hell realm. No other living being can force us to create negative karma. Okay? No other living being makes us angry or makes us depressed. But what is it that sends us to the hell realm, that interferes with our Dharma practice, that actually makes us angry or depressed? It's our selfish attitude. Yeah? It's totally our selfish attitude. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute here. How is depression related to being self-centered? Well, think about it. What are you thinking about when you're depressed? Okay. What are you thinking about? Oh, my life is so lousy. Nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. I can't do anything right. I'm a failure. Everything goes wrong. Who are we thinking about? Who's the subject of all of our depression? Me. Yeah. When we're depressed, we're completely sunk into me, as if there's nothing else in the universe besides me. And I feel awful. And then we throw our pity party. Yeah. Do you throw pity parties? You know what a pity party is? A pity party, this was coined, I do prison work, and one of the inmates I write to coined this term, pity party. So pity party is when we sit and we feel sorry for ourselves. If you ever want to know how to have a pity party, I'm very good at having them. I can give you excellent instructions. Okay? So the first thing you do when you have your pity party is you sit in a room alone, you kick everybody else out, and then you complain that you're lonely. Okay? That's how you start off your pity party. Then you sit and tell yourself how terrible you are, how you can't do anything right, how everybody hates you. Okay? So you make all these exaggerated statements that aren't true, that you believe, okay, so that you make yourself really sad and really miserable. That's the second step in your pity party. Okay. Then you get, because it's a party, so you have to have balloons. Yeah, every good party has balloons. But at a pity party, your balloons are made of lead. Okay. They stick on the ground and they don't move. Okay. And then you sit there and you go, yeah, you sing your pity party song. You know what your pity party song is? Poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. And you go on singing poor me. Yeah. And of course you're the only one who listens to it, because you already kicked everybody else out the room. And while you're singing poor me, you're wondering why nobody else comes and helps you. Because they should be able to read your mind and see that you're unhappy and come and help. Right? Yeah? When I have my pity parties, I isolate myself, and then I get very upset because nobody comes and helps me. Because they should read my mind and know that I'm unhappy and give up everything in their life to come and take care of me. But when they come and say, Chodren, what's wrong? You look unhappy. I say, oh, nothing's wrong. Because they're supposed to ask a few times, because I want to see if they're really sincere about caring for me. Yeah. I don't believe that they really care for me the first time, so I have to, say, oh, nothing's wrong. No, nothing is wrong. Nothing's wrong. Why are you asking me if something's wrong? Yeah. So this is all just the game of our self-centered thought, isn't it? And we do it all the time. All the time. And so in the process of doing that, we really make ourselves quite miserable. And we make the people around us pretty miserable too. And then we complain that the universe is unfair. Because here I am, sweet, wonderful, innocent, kind, benevolent, honest, decent, intelligent, little old me that nobody appreciates. When I was a kid, my mother used to call me Sarah Bernhardt. Sarah Bernhardt was one of these very dramatic actresses, I think from the silent movies. It was like a long time ago. But she was very dramatic. So my mother called me Sarah Bernhardt, because I guess I was a little bit dramatic even when I was a kid, when I had my pity parties. And you know what my parents did one time? I should actually bring this. We're supposed to be showing some CDs here to you people. So I don't have it with me, but you know what my parents did one time? They took a movie of me having a temper tantrum when I was 4 or 5 years old. There it is in black and white. Tupten Chodren having a temper tantrum. So I say, oh, it was only when I was 4 or 5 years old. I don't do that anymore. Ha, ha, ha. Okay, I just find more clever ways to have my temper tantrum. Yeah, because we're pretty clever, aren't we? Yeah? Sometimes, we're not so skilled and we just have our temper tantrum and yell and scream and throw some things. But other times, we're much more nuanced, much more subtle. We throw our temper tantrum while we look like we're so nice and sweet. Yeah. And meanwhile, we say something that really gets somebody. And when they say, oh, you hurt me, we say, oh no, you're just projecting. I wouldn't do that. Okay. So this is all just the self-centered thought. Yeah. So when Shantideva is warning us in the book about not giving up our bodhicitta, he's really warning us to be very attentive to all these machinations of our self-centered thought, because this kind of mind, which is not our identity, it's not who we are, but still it's latched on until we eliminate it, until we cut it off from the root. It's latched on, and it can really take over and run our lives. So we have to be very, very vigilant to protect ourselves against it. Okay, let's go on with the text. Okay, so we were up to verse 8 last night, so we're starting with verse 9. So if somebody else hinders his virtue, his means a bodhisattva. Okay, so if somebody else hinders a bodhisattva's virtue, even for a moment, there will be no end to his miserable states of existence because he diminishes the welfare of sentient beings. So what this means is that if somebody with a bad intention interferes with the good deeds that a bodhisattva is doing, that person is actually interfering with the benefit of all living beings, because the bodhisattva, whatever they're doing, is doing it for the benefit of all living beings. Okay? And so last night I was saying that we need to be careful because we don't know who's a bodhisattva and who isn't. But when we see somebody doing a kind action, rather than interfere with it and criticize it, out of jealousy or critical mind or something like that, we should keep quiet, because if we interfere with the virtuous deeds of a bodhisattva, we're interfering with the well-being of other living beings. Now, this presents some interesting things, because there's many different ways to create virtue. And one person may be doing something that creates virtue, but we would rather they created virtue by doing another activity. Okay? So, for example, let's say somebody gives a donation to one charity, but we really want them to give a donation to another charity. So we criticize, why are you giving to that charity? They don't do very much good work. You should give to this charity. Okay, that's not very good to do, because the person is doing something virtuous. And it's just our opinion that, they should do that virtuous action rather than this virtuous action. So it's not so good to criticize in those situations. Rather, it's better to say, it's very good that somebody's creating virtue. Yeah, it's good that they're giving that to that charity. I may want to give to the other charity. Okay? Or somebody might be creating virtue by chanting mantra, but you think they should go out and do a social welfare project. So you criticize them. Oh, why is that person just sitting there chanting mantra like a tape recorder, totally useless? Why are they meditating, just sitting there watching their belly button? If they really want to benefit sentient beings, they should go work for a charity. Okay, so we criticize. That's not so smart, because that person actually is creating virtue. Yeah, it may look like they're just looking at their belly button, but something else is actually going on, because they're training their mind in virtuous thoughts. Okay, so we shouldn't criticize that person simply because we don't understand what they're doing, and say, oh, if you were really a practitioner, you would go and, do X, Y, and Z. Because as long as somebody's doing something virtuous, we should rejoice. Okay, verse 10. One would be destroyed, obliterating the well-being of even one sentient being. How much more so of beings dwelling throughout all of space? So if we obliterated the well-being of even one sentient beings, so if we deliberately, killed some insects, yes, that's it, with your raid. Psst. Yeah. I love my mother's sentient beings. Psst. Dead. Okay. So if we obliterate the happiness of even one sentient being, we're creating negative karma that we have to experience the result of. So if that action creates negative karma, what then about the karma we create of if we interfere with the well-being of all sentient beings by interfering with the virtuous deeds of a bodhisattva? Okay, you understanding what I'm saying? Since a bodhisattva is really working for the benefit of all, if we cause interference, then it's like interfering with the well-being of all sentient beings. Thus, due to the power of downfalls and due to the power of the bodhicitta, one revolving in the cycle of existence is slow in attaining the bodhisattva grounds. So why are we slow in progressing along the bodhisattva path? Yeah? The grounds are, bodhisattva grounds means different stages in the bodhisattva path. Why are we so slow, progressing through the path? Well, it's because on one hand, there's the power of the bodhicitta pushing us to create virtue and follow the path. On the other hand, there's the self-centered thought that makes us create so many downfalls. And when we create downfalls, we destroy the merit that we created with so much effort throughout so much time before. Okay, so the self-centered thought, and especially anger and wrong views are really, really deadly, because we might spend a lot of time creating virtue, and especially, when we do things with the bodhicitta motivation, because we're thinking of the well-being of all living beings, we create so much virtue. Yeah? But after having created so much virtue out of kindness and love and compassion and bodhicitta, if we then go and get angry at somebody, it's like we're just washing away all that virtue that we just put so much time and energy into creating. You can feel that sometimes in your mind. Yeah? Have you ever stopped and really felt the flavor or the texture of your mind when you get angry? Yeah? Or you get really angry and you say some sharp words to somebody, and then how do you feel inside? You feel kind of raw, don't you? And bare. And that's the feeling of having destroyed our merit by anger having taken over our mind. So that's why it's really, really important to protect the mind against anger. So now I should do a little advertisement. If you want to protect your mind against anger, you should study chapter 6 of this book, A Guide to a Bodhisattva's Way of Life, and you should study His Holiness the Dalai Lama's book called Healing Anger, and another book called Working with Anger. Okay, Working with Anger, which I authored, is actually plagiarized from Shantideva's book. I admit it. I plagiarized, I'm not lying. None of the ideas are my own, they're all Shantideva's. But he's not suing me in court because I guess he thinks that maybe there's some benefit that's going to come out of the book. But I advise you, that that book can be very helpful in learning how to work with your anger. Okay, verse 12. Therefore, I should respectfully act in accordance with my commitment. If I do not make an effort now, I shall go from lower to lower states. So, if we've made the commitment to work for the benefit of sentient beings, we should respectfully act in accordance with that commitment. If we don't take advantage of the opportunity that we have now to cultivate bodhicitta and to train the mind in the bodhisattva practices, then what will happen to us in a future life. Yeah, if we fall into a lower state of existence, it's very difficult to get out. Right now we have a precious human life, and we must have done something so amazing in our previous lives to create the karma to have a precious human life. Because a precious human life isn't just any old human life. It's a human life in which we have the possibility to practice the Dharma, which means we have the interest in the Dharma, we have faith, we have a willingness to learn. Not so many people have that. So we are incredibly fortunate to have the ability to encounter the Dharma and to learn it and put it into practice, to have this precious human life. If we don't take advantage of this opportunity that we have now, and instead we use our life to let the self-centered thought create negativity, then where will we be reborn in our next life? And how will we ever get out of that lower state of being? So in this situation, I often think of my cats. I have 2 cats at the Abbey, or we have 2 cats. And if you watch some of our videos on YouTube or on the web, you will see our cats. Yeah, they usually come to the Dharma teachings. When we have the teachings in the house, they come to the Dharma teachings, they curl up in their basket and go to sleep. But they're getting some kind of good imprint. And it's really funny because they have, to be born in a Buddhist abbey, what kind of karma is that? How many cats in America live in a Buddhist monastery? Yeah. So they're very close to the Dharma. Very close to the Dharma. And yet, they're cats, and they have a hard time understanding it. Okay? So they're getting all these seeds planted by hearing teachings and seeing holy objects. But at the same time, because they're animals, just because they have the animal body, they also create a lot of negative karma. Yeah. How? Well, in the garden of the Abbey, we have chipmunks. Now, if you're a cat, a chipmunk is a really interesting thing to chase and to catch and to bite. Okay, and we have little mice in the garden, and the cat likes to chase the mice, and it likes to swat the bees, and it runs after the lizards, and and I've tried to teach my cats. My cats are very old. They're probably about, I would say, one's 16 and one's 17, so they're pretty old. So for many years, I've been trying to teach them about the precept not to kill. Yeah. But they don't get it, yeah? They just don't get it. So here they are, they have the opportunity to meet the Dharma, but they don't have a human life to enjoy the Dharma with. And so they don't have the human mind that can understand the precepts. And so in the process, they create this negative karma. One of my cats is a little finicky. And if you pet him when he doesn't want to, he goes, yeah. So kind of, scratching a monastic, not such good thing to do. Yeah. But he doesn't know monastic, not monastic. Yeah. Even though you try and explain to him. Yeah, don't get it. Okay, so if we wind up in that situation, then that's going to be what happens to us. We'll be in that same predicament. And it's a sad predicament. It's a very sad predicament. So therefore, we should respectfully act in accordance with our commitment to follow the Bodhisattva trainings. Verse 13, innumerable Buddhas have gone by seeking out every sentient being, but through my own fault, I have not come under the domain of their cure. I'm wondering if it should be the domain of their care. I don't have the Tibetan, but cure or care, it kind of has the same thing. In other words, there's been innumerable Buddhas who have been alive and who have sought out sentient beings to benefit. But because we created negative karma due to our self-centered thought, we never had the opportunity to be benefited by these bodhisattvas because we were too busy experiencing the result of our own negative karma. And so you think about that, and that's sad, isn't it? You know, that there's been all these Buddhas, all these bodhisattvas who appear on our planet and in other places in the universe, but we haven't had access to them because we've been too busy either being distracted, creating negative karma, or experiencing the result of our destructive karma. So that's a pretty sad situation. So we don't want to get ourselves into that situation anymore. Yeah. So therefore, we need to protect our bodhicitta. Yeah. And act properly. So, just think about it. Shakyamuni Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. He taught in India, which isn't so far away. Where were we then? Yeah? Were we maybe some of the argumentative people who met the Buddha and didn't appreciate his teachings? Because if you read the sutras, there's a number of argumentative people who the Buddha talks to and then they don't hear. Were we one of them? Yeah? Or maybe we were born when the Buddha was there, but we were born as a grasshopper. Yeah? Or as a horse, and we couldn't benefit from the Buddha being alive. Or maybe when the Buddha was alive in Bodh Gaya, we were in the hell realm experiencing the result of some negative karma. We don't know. Yeah? But what we do know is right now we have a most amazing, incredible opportunity, and it's so important for us to take advantage of this opportunity to practice well now. Because if we do that, then we'll have a succession of good rebirths and we'll be able to eventually attain enlightenment. Verse 14, if I remain like this, as I am now, I will repeatedly come to miserable states of existence, illness, death, amputation, destruction, and the like. So if we remain the way we are now, and Shantideva is writing this, he's saying this too, if I remain like I am now, just always thinking me, I, my, mine, how do I look good, how do I get what I want, how do I cover up all my bad mistakes, if we keep on doing this kind of thing, then we're just setting ourselves up for future suffering and miserable states of existence. We're setting ourselves up for illness, for death, for amputation, destruction, and so on. Okay? Because all these misfortunes come due to our own destructive actions. Yeah? So if we really want ourselves to be happy, we have to take care of our actions and make sure that we abandon the 10 destructive actions and practice the 10 virtuous ones. Even if it causes us some inconvenience in this life, we still need to do that. Verse 15, when shall I encounter the extremely rare appearance of the Tathagata, faith, human existence, and the ability to practice virtue, health, daily sustenance, and lack of adversity? Life is momentary and deceptive, and the body is as if on loan. So, if we continue the way we are now without trying to practice, when will we ever be born in a place where there's the very extreme occurrence of a Tathagata, a Buddha, manifesting and turning the Dharma wheel? Yeah, because to be born in that kind of situation means creating a lot of good karma. So right now we have the opportunity to do that, and we're experiencing the result of so much good karma we created in previous lives. But if we don't really utilize this opportunity, when will we ever be born in a place where we can encounter the Buddha and his teachings again? When will we have faith ourselves? We shouldn't take our faith for granted. We shouldn't take our interest in the Dharma for granted, because as ordinary beings with confused mind, we can lose those things. And then where are we? Where are we if we lose our faith in the 3 jewels? Okay, so while we have this faith and this interest and this sincerity, we should really take advantage and put some energy into doing that. Okay, when will we ever have a human existence? It's hard to have a precious human life, but we have one now. We need to make use of it. Okay, and how about the ability to practice virtue? We have that ability now. But if we waste that ability and instead just indulge our greed, our jealousy, our confusion, our laziness, then how difficult it will be to have a similar opportunity in the future. So Shantideva is pointing all of this out to us, even though it's kind of sometimes unpleasant news to hear, but he's pointing it out to us because of his compassion, because he wants to show us the good opportunity we have and how important it is to make use of it. Okay? Because otherwise, sometimes, as we see, we're a little bit foolish and we don't notice. We aren't aware of the fortune that we have right now. Okay? And so similarly, health, daily sustenance, lack of adversity, how difficult it is to have these kind of conditions. When we look, Singapore is an incredibly wealthy country, and it's a very safe country here. How much good karma you created to be born in Singapore. Yeah? And to be able to have the opportunity to have religious freedom, to have so many Buddhist temples here, so many Buddhist activities. I mean, I live in the US. There are so few Buddhist temples there. We're starting a monastery. We're basically the only training monastery in the country, where if you're a Western monastic, where you can go and be supported and get training. There's little small communities of 2 or 3 monks or nuns, but they're not training communities. Here in Singapore, you have so much access to the Dharma. It's quite remarkable. Yeah? So you created a lot of good karma to have this situation. It's important to take advantage of it. Okay, life is momentary and deceptive, and the body is as if on loan. Okay, so our life is momentary. It's passing in each moment. Yeah. And when you consider how much we sleep, you know, a third of our life goes by and we're unconscious, sleeping, aren't we? And we're so attached to our sleep that we can't give it up, even though we're not awake to enjoy it. Yeah. And so we just sleep, and the whole life goes by, yeah, sleeping. And to what benefit? Because you sleep one night and you just have to sleep again the next night. Yeah? Okay? And so our life goes by quickly. It's also very deceptive. You know, we feel as if we're permanent, that we're not going to die. That's not accurate. Okay? And our body is like something that's been loaned to us. Okay? So we have this body for a short time. It's like Mother Earth loaned us the nitrogen and calcium and all the different elements that constitute our body. And then at a certain point, our body gets returned to the earth. It gets recycled. Yeah? Just gets recycled. So it's just being loaned to us for a short time, where we have a human body and a human mind and the ability to practice the Dharma. So it's so important to be aware of the preciousness of our situation and all that we can do, and especially encountering the Mahayana teachings, especially hearing teachings on bodhicitta. It's so rare and so precious, and something that we really need to appreciate about our present life and take advantage of, and really do our utmost to practice bodhicitta, to live ethically, to increase our love and compassion. Okay, so we'll stop there for this evening and we'll continue tomorrow. So I still have some questions left from last night, or if people have questions tonight, you're welcome to come to the mic, or you're welcome also to write them down.
Thanks. I need more spikes. Venerable, when you mentioned that harm experienced due to the external situation, that is almost always less than experiencing it from inside. But my mind went straight away to Burma, to Myanmar, a Buddhist country, where we have this dictator. And so I visit Burma quite regularly, and it's a huge question mark what is happening in this country. I mean, this are a country only with devout Buddhists, except for a few, and they have this external harm doing to them. It's probably a very complex question, but I don't know how to work with it, and it came up in me, this question, when you mentioned this about the external harm and the internal harm.
Okay, so you're asking that, because I was saying that external beings cannot harm us as much as our self-centered thought. And so it made you think of the situation of Burma, where you have many devout Buddhists, but you also have a military government, or the situation of Tibet, which was a Buddhist country and then was overrun by a communist government. Okay? When we have sentient beings, living beings, we also have people who have some good karma and some destructive karma. Okay? And so according to, various deeds that we've done in our previous life, we experience the result of both positive karma and negative karma within one lifetime. So in that kind of situation, that's exactly what's happening. People are experiencing some positive karma, some negative karma. There is external hindrance due to the government, okay? But if somebody is wise, still, even though there's the external hindrance, they can transform their mind and still use their life to create virtue. Okay? So, for example, I knew a monk. His family was more of a wealthy family in the village, but he renounced and he went to the monastery. Later, when the communists took over, they took over the village, and they took his family house and turned it into a prison. And he was a monk, and they were throwing the monks and nuns in prison. So he wound up being imprisoned in his own house. Okay? And he could have talk about a good reason to have a pity party. He could have, had a good one. But he told me that what he did instead was he just did retreat. Yeah, he wasn't allowed to have prayer beads, so he couldn't count the number of, recitations he was doing, but he got an approximate idea, of how many he would say within a certain period of time, and then he would tell the time according to where the sun was in the room. And that's how he kept track of how many mantra he had said. And he also told me that some of the Buddhists would write questions and sneak them around to him, so he could answer them, when the soldiers weren't looking. It was quite brave, actually, because they could have gotten in a lot of trouble. But in spite of the hardship they faced, they still tried to practice. Okay? So, and if we look, why do we have those external hardships? It's because of our own negative karma. Yeah? Why are we born in a country that lacks religious freedom? It's a product of our own negative karma that was created due to our self-centered thought. So you see, in the end, it all boils down to the self-centered thought. Okay. So now that I know the benefit and urgency to learn and practice the Buddha Dharma in this precious lifetime, how can I encourage my loved ones and near and dear ones to take this opportunity before it is too late? Good question. People often ask that question, how can we help our friends and our relatives? So you have to see the mental disposition of your friends and relatives, and then think about what the most skillful way is to introduce the Dharma to them. With some people, you can do it directly. You can just say, I've been going to Buddhist teachings, and here's what I've been hearing, and it's really been helpful in my life, and I want to share these ideas with you. And you just start a conversation about what you've been hearing in Dharma class. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to get a Dharma book, one that's written in very clear, simple language, and you just leave it around the house. Okay? You know, because we leave things around the house all the time, don't we? So you just leave a Dharma book around the house. And it's amazing that, you know, sometime one of your friends and relatives might just pick it up and read a little bit and find some benefit. But you know what one of the best things is, if you want to get your friends and relatives interested in the Dharma, is if you practice sincerely, then they will see the change in you. Yeah, it's one of the best ways to get them to interested. If you just learn the Dharma by your mouth, but you don't practice, they're not going to be interested in what you're doing. But if you learn the Dharma and put it into practice, then how you behave is going to change, and they will notice that. I had one friend, she worked for the FAA in the States. That's the government, Federal Aviation Authority? Something like that. It has to do with the airlines and airspace and all that kind of stuff. She had red hair, and she also had lupus, so she was in a wheelchair. So she would go around her office, you know, with her red hair in her wheelchair. They used to call her Hellfire on Wheels because she had a horrible temper, okay? So that's what they called her in her office, Hellfire on Wheels. She came to the Dharma, and she learned and she started practicing, and her behavior started to change. So much so that one of her colleagues came into her cubicle one day and said, "What's up? What are you doing? You know, you're so much nicer to be with than you were before. What happened?" And she told him about the Dharma, and then he got interested. And she had a set of teachings that I had given on the Lam Rim, 100 and something tapes. He borrowed the whole thing and listened to them because he was so inspired by the change that had happened in her. So what's the disadvantage of deferring the dedication of cultivating the Buddhist way of life to the latter part of life after we have completed the work of raising a family, creating a retirement fund, and so forth? What's the disadvantage? You may die first. It's true, isn't it? You know? We can do all this preparation for our retirement and have a grand scheme of, I'm going to go here on retreat and go there and learn the teachings and do meditation here and blah. Do we have any guarantee we're going to live that long? No. No. So it's really important to practice now. So since you mentioned that we shouldn't create negative actions, bad karma, when somebody else bullies us, then how should we react to this person without letting ourselves be bullied and without letting ourselves be taken advantage of? I think it's possible to still have our own sense of dignity and to be very strong and very assertive, but without being angry. Okay? So in other words, anger is not the only mental state that can motivate us to stop somebody else's harmful actions. Yeah. Compassion can also be a very strong motivator. Yeah? Because when we have compassion, we don't want to see the other person create negative karma. Also, we have compassion for ourselves and don't want to be injured. And we don't want anybody else in the situation to be hurt. So that compassion can motivate us to be very strong and clear and interfere so that a person can't act in a harmful way. Okay? So I think that there's a way where you can be clear and firm and not let people take advantage of you and not let them bully you. Because the thing is about being bullied is bullies feed on fear. Okay? What is it that the bully likes? Is they like to feel strong, because they think that if other people are afraid of them, that means that other people respect them. So they've confused fear and respect. Somebody can fear us and not respect us at all, which is usually what happens. But that person thinks that if they can make somebody else afraid of them, then they have some power, then that person respects them. Yeah. But if you're not afraid, then you're not nourishing what the bully is doing. Yeah. If they tease you, if they ridicule you, and you just stay firm, they can't feed on it. Okay? If you get nervous, if you're afraid, if they insult you and you feel hurt, then they feed on it. But if somebody insults you, somebody says mean things, and you maintain your own set of your own dignity, what are they going to do? Can somebody who practices the path of an arhat also practice the Bodhisattva path after they attain arhatship? Yes. So somebody may prefer to become an arhat and then practice the Bodhisattva path after that. But if you do that, it takes longer to become a Buddha than if you enter the Bodhisattva path right directly. Is fear a condition or a form of the self-centered mind or an egotistic mind? How do we deal with healthy and unhealthy fears? Okay, generally the unhealthy fears, they are a product of the self-centered mind, and they also feed the self-centered mind. Okay, so there's healthy fears, there's unhealthy fears. When you're driving a car and you're merging onto the highway, if you have an awareness of the danger of what you're doing and you take care, that is a healthy kind of fear. If you don't have that fear, you're just going to go zoom on the highway and not look at who's coming from behind. That's pretty dangerous. Okay? So an unhealthy, healthy fear is an awareness of a danger that actually exists. Okay? And knowing that there's a way of dealing with that danger. An unhealthy fear is where you panic, you get emotional, your mind starts spinning around with worry and anxiety so that you cannot think clearly and deal with the situation. Okay? That is an unhealthy fear. Okay? And it often leads us to make decisions that are not so wise in the moment because our self-centered thought is running the show. Okay. So I'm collecting more questions, but we have to stop this evening. We've run out of time. So let's just sit quietly for our little digestion meditation. Okay? And so just for a few minutes, review in your mind what you've heard, think about it, and and think, how can I put this into practice in my life? And especially think about your fortune to have your life, and think of how you can best make use of it to enhance your spiritual practice. So let's do that for a few minutes. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.